right, we are at 7 o'clock, so I will call this meeting to order. If you have not already done it, would you please silence your cell phone? And we are beginning the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is being live streamed to Facebook and YouTube. Just so everybody's aware, please call the roll.
Sure. Darcy Kaplan?
Here.
Angela Brown?
Here.
Jasper Christopher?
Here.
Tara Shields?
Here.
Ray Armstrong?
Here.
Keith Goshet?
Here.
Oh, Jenny Slow, sorry. There.
I am going to adopt a policy as we have some visitors here in the room. It is the adopted policy of the Berlin Township Zoning Commission that each applicant or agenda item will be given 10 minutes or at the discretion of the chairperson to make a formal presentation. The chair will allow questions from the commission members in order to provide a timely and orderly discussion of business for consideration. Finally, the audience will be given up to 3 minutes or at the discretion of the chairperson for each speaker to respond. The chairperson may limit repetitive debate, and all comments from the audience must be addressed to the chairperson. Can you please verify that this meeting is advertised?
Yes, in the November 23rd, 2024 Delaware Gazette.
And we have before us some meeting minutes from our last meeting on November 12th. I'd like to accept a motion, please, to approve those minutes. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from November 12th. I'll second the motion.
Okay, Ms. Shields?
Yes.
Ms. Slows?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. DeChristopher?
Yes.
Ms. Kaplan?
Yes. Right, in front of us, we have an application for BZC 24-008. It's the Central Ohio Development LLC, May Inc. at 4500 Old Ginger River Road, Delaware, Ohio, 43015. This applicant is requesting approval of a preliminary and final development plan to rezone parcel 418230010530005, plus or minus 29.3 acres from farm residential district FR1 to R-1.85 with period of overlay 44 single-family homes, Redwood Road, Delaware, Ohio, 43015, in a subdivision known as the States of Berlin. So, hello applicants, if you don't mind making the presentation.
Sure. Hey, hi, I'm David Fisher with the firm of Kepler Fisher, here on behalf of the applicant. That would be Patrick and Grayson Fisher, who are the developer. Got Joe Louie, land planner with me from EMH&T, and David Dennis is the back from our engineering firm, Advanced Civil Design. So we got our whole good long team here. If you got questions on any of those sorts of things. So thanks for the opportunity to be before you tonight. Appreciate that. I understand that we did have some supplemental materials, and I understand that your zoning officer goes out ahead of time.
Yep.
We all brought that to you, but it's only 40 copies. So appreciate the opportunity to be with you. I think, Madam Chair, in your reading of the application, you said a lot about what we're going to talk about, which is what we're looking to do and the zoning that's in place and what we're looking to change. I would point out one thing, and the zoning officer report, I think it was a mistake, about 111 lots, just because this is 44 lots.
I
I apologize for that. You kind of figured how we get that done, right?
Number 1 week. You were 1 minute prior.
Yeah. So this is a development of high quality lots and big lots. These are 90-foot, average 90-foot lots. As you know, I do this every night of the week in modern day Ohio, around central Ohio. 90-day lots, a lot of them aren't being done anymore. A lot of them are seeking smaller lots, but this developer does want to do that to luxury higher priced home that comes in bigger lots. So do that in mind. You did review your comp plan before we file, and that's some statements in our development tax compliance plan, so compliance with the zoning resolution. I think you know that we did come up with the zoning staff on a couple of occasions, and if you recall, we came and met with you informally a couple hours ago. Just on the plan and talk about what we're going to do and what we have hope to accomplish. 44 lots, you know what the zoning category is, and not a lot of whistles and bells here in terms of a lot of things. There are some divergences we want to talk about tonight. We have been working with the school board. We do have arrangements arrangements in place with them to provide sewer access from the school site. There is, if you notice in your plans, a major bike walking path that is being installed across our open space on the school site. And more recently, the schools have asked us to consider a second access point to see more convenient for the high school area. And we're still talking about where the best place to put that is, that there is a commitment in place to do the second walkway for them. So it's been very cooperative with the school district. The divergences are 4 we're asking for. And just to go over those with you, if I may. The first one is what we call a structure separation. Your code requires effectively a 25-foot structure separation between dwelling units, 12.5 feet on either side. We're asking it to diverge to 10 feet on each side, so 20 feet. I think that's pretty standard in Central Ohio. I think there's a lot of developments in your township that have that structure separation. We'll talk more about that. Our front yard setback is 25 feet in accordance with the plan, but we would like a 5-foot variance for front porches and minor things like that, not major structures, but some things like a front porch. Rear yard setback of 25 feet, and once again, we'd like a divergence there of about 10 feet to put porches and things like that in the back, decks and patios. We assume you have the same faith that a lot of townships do, a lot of cities do, which is people are coming in for DZA variances all the time. They want a fire pit or a deck or something like that in the back of their home. So we're trying to help you as well as have a better development by just addressing that now through that divergence. And then the last one is the lot coverage ratio, which we spent some time looking at. Your code does require that, and we cite the code section for it. What's interesting is in our work and looking around the township, we don't see where there's been enforcement of that. So we'd like you to grant us a lot coverage divergence, the theory being nice big lots, nice setbacks, and we question whether there's really a need for the lot coverage given those facts, and also given the fact that we don't see where there's been that requirement or compliance in the past from other developers. At the end of my development text, I state other agreements that we have agreed to. We talked about the walking path. We talked about the sewer from the schools. We will provide, as the township likes, all street trees located outside the street right away, and that includes the sidewalks. So all that maintenance for trees is with the developer, homeowner, not the township. I think that's an important component we agreed to. We did agree with 10-foot tree buffer along the existing tree line on the eastern boundary. We may need to have a couple of encroachments sometimes. Try to move that tree line as much as possible. We will limit on-street parking to one side of the street, basically the non-fire hydrant side, so you don't have too many cars parked on the street on both sides with the congestion that comes out of that. And then we will provide screening along the north and south boundaries, as we state there, with the existing zoning next door of FR1 that will provide a 50% winter opacity and 70% summer opacity. So we're trying to protect those boundaries from those FR1 properties. One of the things that came up in your staff report was there's a couple of driveways that come right across from a street intersection. It gets a little tricky because you've got curb ramps that are required by the county. So we agreed we'll set those off as much as we can. We can't push them clear over to the side of the lot because if you look at your engineering work, you'll see we get right in the middle of the curb ramp. So we are committed that we're not going to have any driveways that are centered on the opposing street intersection to provide some protection there. Also a comment from staff, I think, Delaware Regional Planning as well, about no amenity, shall we say. So the developer's committing $20,000 to do either a top lot or a gazebo in the open space. And you'll notice there's a nice big open space with a pond around it. And then lastly, there's a homeowners association that will be created to maintain the open space, to maintain the buffer areas, to maintain the walking trails, those sorts of things on the property. So, Joe, you have something to add to that?
I will add, this drum, after we made our submittal, there was some conversation, and the applicant agreed to put some screening and buffering around that interior lot. And we came up with 3 trees per lot, evergreens that would be placed around, and that's why we added this to you guys' packet this morning. Also, took a little bit of work. We got a letter of approval from Lieutenant Arnold at the fire department. He wanted to see some things that Dave Denson provided in order to get that letter. So that did not make it into the application. We had to do that after the fact.
It's all now part of it. Everything we now had submitted is all part of that.
Yes. We got unanimous approval from Delaware County Regional Planning on October 20th. Levi's been great working with us and providing us some comments, which is kind of had some of the things that you're seeing here tonight. I think that pretty much covers it. We're here to answer any questions and listen to the residents and talk more about it.
Do you want to start with questions? Sure. So you added trees around the central lot, would there be any mounting, or is it just trees?
There's mounting across the frontage, the greater rear frontage. It's on the landscape plan. You'll see that.
Just about
Around the central lot?
No, we're not gonna commit to mounting around the perimeter.
Okay. So with you want $20,000 to be allocated towards the top outer gazebo. Where would that, so this is reserve D, is where that would go?
We like it, between lot 15 and 18, probably. We're not 100% sure.
maybe 15 and 16.
We like it here. We got CBD locations here and here. We got 2 locations, 1 per phase. This would probably make a decent spot, or maybe we would push it back and maybe do something, park this up a little bit more. Something like that. It would be on open space and be HOA owned and maintained.
I guess I would prefer for there to be a commitment one way or the other, and for the developer to just do it, I don't know.
You want to tell us what you'd like, we'll do either one. That's why we worded it that way.
Oh, okay. I don't know, I mean, I guess if you're only doing one or the other, I don't know that I have a preference, just I guess to commit to doing one or the other in that area. Let's see. So, one of the recommendations was, in terms of the side yard, was consider doing, so it looks like the Delaware County Regional Planning had suggested that instead of just reducing the side yard setbacks, to consider reducing only one side yard setback, so the total side yard, that you would still be 25 feet between buildings. Is that something you would commit to?
We thought about that. I mean, you have some development and enforcement considerations and this sort of thing, because it's pretty easy to say it's 12.5, or 10 and 10, but now you start, who sets off where and who gets the benefit of the 12 and who gets only the benefit of the 10. So we didn't think that was very good logic and very good geography to do it that way.
So I would like to stay at the 25 feet in between. If, I understand there's a little bit of a challenge with implementation, but I would not favor reducing that.
Keep in mind, given the size of these lots and the quality of these homes, that you're probably going to have a good number of side load garages, and so you end up using more space because of that. And of course, the benefit to the community of that is you're not looking at the garage doors, you're looking at the facade of homes.
So in
That's
terms
one of the reasons.
of side load garages, is how many of these are we looking at side load garages?
The problem is too, until builders come in and build, it's difficult to estimate or to commit. But I think it's fair to say there's a fair number of these will be silo garages. I think almost the predominant subdivision. That agree.
I would think so. That's the reason for the big lots, so that there's an opportunity to do it.
Okay.
Could you identify your name and address, please?
Sure. Patrick Fisher, Alto Real Estate, 6262 Iron Road, Dublin, Ohio, 43016. Yes.
Thank you.
Are you gonna do any benches along, it looks like a pretty long multi-use path, are there gonna be any benches along the path?
Hadn't been planned. The primary purpose of that path was to provide access to the schools.
Okay. Do you have any builders that, your pictures really look like Fisher, is there a builder that's
A couple of
interested?
them have been talked to. Nobody's committed yet, but we think it's an exciting subdivision and they'll be interested in it. And we'll have, it's, you know, anymore in Central Ohio, you typically have one builder, maybe two in a subdivision, especially this size, it's typically one. I mean, builders like to have control over the sites. They can move house to house to house with all of their subcontractors.
Okay. And then you wanted us to, as far as the service,
Lot coverage?
yeah, the lot coverage, so are you suggesting a different standard be applied?
No,
to that
we're
specific-
suggesting that we don't see it enforced in the township. We don't see it applied in other subdivisions. And our view is with the bigger lots we're offering, and with the setbacks we're offering, we think that should trump over lot coverage. And then you also always have the enforcement issue of, you know, once again, how, you know, if you come to the township, well, I want to put something in my house, it's going to violate that lot coverage. I think we really do consider how often a lot of townships really ask us to do these sorts of things so that their BZA isn't inundated with then requests from residents of the community that come in and say, I need to be able to build a fire pit in the back or an outdoor fireplace or that sort of thing. That's really a part of the rationale.
Okay, and so then with the rear yard setback okay, so you want a divergence to allow decks and porches to encroach. So I guess I'm confused about where you want the allowance for that to lie.
Well, there's a setback, so we're saying that we agree to a setback and we would like to be diverged from that setback for decks and porches. Beyond that, but if you look at this plan compared to what you often see before you know, big lots and pretty deep lots. So these are going to be nice lots.
And I'll point out that there are 31 lots here that have a 50-foot rear setback because they're up against the perimeter. So a 10-foot encroachment into a 50 is still pretty minor too.
That wouldn't require divergence then, would it?
On the 50-foot?
50-foot and put PRD as a 50-foot border.
So there are specific lots that you have identified on here that have a much smaller setback, so, it looks like lot 33 is one of them. It calls out, oh, that's a 50-foot rear setback. I know I saw it, and I'm having trouble finding the one very specifically using that, but there was one that called out where the setback issues were, and it was on lots that you have like a wider. And there were only so lot 18, there's a 25-foot rear setback there it was calling out. And I think this is where probably a couple of us where we were confused by it because of some of the statements seemed contradictory. So when you're asking for, and sorry, Betty. So when you're asking for that variance, quote unquote variance for, to only have a 10-foot setback, you're not
No,
saying.
it's a 10-foot encroachment.
So yes, okay, so, and that's where there was some contradiction in the documentation as well. That's what I had written down. So you're not asking for the buildable area to exceed, you're asking for ancillary
That's right.
after construction.
Principal
To be
structure.
able
Non-condition.
But
It doesn't
not,
have to be after construction, but the principal dwelling can't lie.
exactly, so you're not asking for the principal dwelling to, you're asking for any of those ancillary pieces, like a patio, like a deck,
That's right. Yep.
things of that nature that way residents don't have issues down the road.
That's right.
Okay.
All right, those are the only questions that I have.
Sure. Where I wasn't crazy about the 10 feet from side to side, so a total of 20 feet versus 25, and this is where I thought potentially there could be. I'm looking at the types of homes that you have here, that again, very reminiscent of Fisher homes. Those are large footprints. So even though it's a large lot, a very good sized lot, if you're putting a really large home, where my mind goes to is people are going to feel like they're too close with a huge house with only 10 feet. I know that 5 feet doesn't feel that much different from going from 20 to 25, but the ones that I'm specifically looking at are lot 24, 25, and 26, where it gets, and it's really 24 and 25, those two lots that squeeze together. And so for instance, like lot 23, is there a reason why we couldn't move everything, condense everything on the cul-de-sac a little bit in order to take away that 10-foot setback? And then the other one was on the other side, on lot 18, where again, you have that. And again, if you shift things over a little bit, so if 19 shifts over 5 feet, right? So could you rework that the houses don't feel as close? Now, when you get to lot 15, that might be one that I can probably look away from, right? Because it's against someone's backyard, so it's not like they're side to side, so you're not going to feel it as much there. But then when you get into lot 36, where again, the houses just are, I love the rear yards. I love that. But what I'm afraid of is that you're going to see these very large homes, these large footprint homes, and they're gonna feel like they're too close together. And when you have windows on the sides,
When you what?
then, going up the staircase, right? And you get to the landing before you turn, and you're like, hi neighbor. I feel like those are the areas again where if we could shift, because when you look at lot 36, I go to lot 38, and that you have, a very large front yard. So could you condense 38 and 39 a little bit to again help with those, all of those? Could you shift it just enough where you could get rid of those?
Get rid of.
The 10 yard,
She was saying.
so 20 versus,
Yeah.
so adding the extra 5 feet. I know where, I think it was hard, and I was trying to find that one exhibit you had on here where it actually showed the sewer access. Because I forget which lot it affected back there towards the curve. Do you remember which lot it comes through? Is it 5 and 6 that it comes through? I think it's 5 and 6 from the dotted lines.
That's right.
Yeah, thank you. So how you have lot 8 with 10 feet on both sides, those are huge lots, which are amazing, but could we then shift over some? And again, because of that sewer access between 5 and 6, maybe not, right? It would just depend. So if we reduce down to a couple versus, and then especially right at the front where you're gonna see, and I know Gregory's a dead end now, well, kind of, Cheshire Elementary, but still, when you're the front of the neighborhood, to feel like those are closer especially, just takes takes a little bit away.
Well, I guess I'll speak, and before we start changing all the lot widths. I did a little research, I looked at Berlin Farm West and Berlin Farm. And both of them, they propose 12.5 foot side yards, but they allow for the encroach up to a foot. And they made a restriction that no exhibitions would be allowed on the side.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the first thing, but we could say, sure, no exhibitions on the side. But the 12.5 with the encroachment really isn't a whole lot different than what we're proposing, which is 10 feet. We're not asking for 13, correct? We're just saying 10 feet. Right. So that, what happens is, you got 20 feet between, which is oftentimes easy for easement. You can't have a roof or an eave or anything stick out into that easement. And you end up having to push the house a foot or even a little bit more. So you have to be paying attention to that. You can't just push it all the way up to the 10. So now you're looking at 11, I don't know, we're not far off the.
Well, the other thing is,
Well,
two things. First of all, the lots in the back there, some of you mentioned like 7, 8, 9, 10 in that area. One of the things we're talking about with the school board right now that we haven't determined yet is there could be this path in this.
Yeah, and that's pretty much
Kind of
where
changes the dynamic of all that back there.
Yeah, okay.
The other thing that I guess Patrick and Grayson to think about is the earlier comment from Regional Planning Commission. I really think the 12.5 and 10 doesn't really work. But the question is, what if you combine them, the two of them, and made it 22.5, and each had half of 22.5. So we give a little bit, you give a little bit. I don't know, that have any merit for you, Patrick?
I do have a kid with that. I'm more trying to make sure we get a consensus
Sure, yeah.
amongst us. I'm willing to be flexible on that and work with you guys to get it in. I also would say what's happening at Berlin is also a possibility that you were just pointing out that we would have matched what they had over there with the encroachment. That's another scenario. So I'm open to moving that.
Okay.
And the bottom line is not the, I just don't value side yards. They just.
I am not the same,
It's a privacy thing.
I'm not the same,
100 feet wide. So.
for my profession, I'm not in the same understanding of that,
Yes.
so.
From a privacy standpoint, my neighbor is 25 feet away, but her upper level bedroom looks down into my living room. So,
Can I speak on this like this?
Sure.
With 22.5?
I think that that's a little bit better. The other thing that we want to be very careful of is that every single time we say yes to something or give to something, the next person who comes in asks for even more. So we are constantly setting a precedent, right?
Sure.
And making sure that we are not we're not getting down to nothing.
Understand.
Does that make sense?
and we're also not the
Because
same.
everyone pushes for more. So that's making sure that,
I think the only reason we even asked for the 10 is there were other examples in the township that worked. That's the only reason we asked.
yeah, so working on some of it, I think would be, sure. I do like the path to Berlin because I like the one to middle school. And my first thought was like, okay, where can they put in a path with the fields and everything right there? So I do appreciate that because you're gonna have a lot of kids walking. From a tot lot versus a gazebo, with the size of the yards, I'm not thinking a tot lot, I would go to the gazebo.
As I said, you
From a
tell us what
gathering,
you prefer, we'll do it.
yeah, from a gathering perspective, if kids want to go play and in an open area, in this open area near Reserve B, having a gazebo in that area, I think would be better.
Throw some benches.
And yeah, with some benches, a couple picnic tables, like 2 picnic tables, something of that nature, because
We'll park it up.
it creates a gathering space versus
I understand.
a tall lot is only good for so many years. And when we have the neighborhoods that the communities are coming in with lots that are not as big as these, right? They may not feel like they have enough room for a patio or a deck plus a swing set or a trampoline so they're trying to reduce what they're putting in the backyards versus that won't be as much of the case here in most of them, right?
I agree.
And this comes down to your footprint and your buildable space versus, so your number one divergence was, or sorry, no, it was the second divergence, the front yard setback. The encroachment of 5 feet into the 25 feet setback. So is that on some of these? What I don't want to have happen is I don't want every front porch to be sitting so that the houses are 20 feet off the road, because that looks funny.
Well, the house will never be, the porch could be.
But if the house comes up around,
And it's not allowed.
Okay.
The principal structure, both front,
Should never-
side, rear, cannot exceed the setback.
so if you go to your, more looking at the fourth house in, so something of this nature and potentially down here, where you actually have the portion, a partial front porch, right? So not just a cover, but a partial front porch there. I guess from my I mean, you wouldn't even have, unless you considered the garage being slightly in front as well and not being part of the principal residence. Is that something that you're thinking of right there that would be an encroachment?
In that example, that front, that darker garage, that's the most, or not,
Yeah, looking at these drawings, the only one where you could have that setback would be in the third set of drawings, the top drawing.
And that was my next question.
That's the only one
Okay.
under what we're proposing.
Okay, and because that's what I wanted to understand is
Principal structure,
exactly,
front, rear, side cannot exceed the setback.
exactly.
Only, we're talking about porches in the front, we're talking about outdoor
Yeah.
gazebos, patios.
So something, so I'm fine with that. Something that is harder now, that we have a one-step process, doesn't mean one meeting. One step means preliminary and final all in one meeting, okay? Doesn't mean we have only one meeting. So something that is more difficult is ironing out some of these details, but also we always talk about siloed garages. Now, you just talked about it with Jenny a second ago, but we like to see what number are going to be siloed garages, which gets harder because you don't have a builder yet. But committing to 20% siloed garages is something, and again,
That's
looking
fine.
at
We
these,
committed to that.
so having that in the text is important. It does create, okay, it does create a lot more on Levi, because as these building permits are coming in and making sure that we do have enough,
Yeah.
which does get hard as you go along, because you need to make sure that there's so many in each phase. Levi, would you want to see how many were in each phase?
No, I think with this subdivision, I'm not as concerned as something with smaller lots
Okay.
where we're asking for.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of that.
I think every one of these on the cul-de-sac is gonna end up being, anything that's pie shaped is probably gonna be siloed for sure. Yeah.
Yes, the corners on the side, the cul-de-sac on the side.
We can agree with that.
Okay, all right. Those are mine, and I appreciate those trees. When we usually ask for benches, it is typically because we have internal walking paths, because again, the yards aren't as big. So we have internal walking paths in the community, so we like to see benches put along them. I don't know that it makes sense, because we don't have internal ones. It's this path going to the middle school, and it's hopefully the path that'll go, and you're not gonna put a bench there. It doesn't make sense. So
You don't feel you need benches?
I would more focus on, I think doing a nice gazebo instead with 2 to 3, and we like 20 by 20 gazebos.
With 2 or 3 benches?
Picnic tables,
Okay.
picnic tables, yes.
we could put some benches out.
Yeah. And again, the benches, because I mean, I don't even know that, I wouldn't want to have it against this lot on the side where the detention pond is. I don't think that's fair to them. And, because then you're asking for people to take walks that way versus just students during the day, so. That was mine. Yeah.
First, I'm glad you got the fire department issues resolved. That's kind of a big one. I like the addition of the buffering to the central lot, the neighbor in the center. I would like to see maybe that varied a little bit. Just from a standpoint, I look at what you've done for your north neighbors and your south, and it just kind of seems rushed to that center. It's just like throw a line of trees. Where the ones to the north and the south, you show variation of not only trees, but different sizes and things.
Well, the idea would be the uniformity of the spacing, but the variety of trees, there would be a variety. Colorado blue, there'd be some Norways, maybe some Austrian, or we could move it up an landscape contractor to give us a variety of evergreens down through there, so it doesn't look like a control stop. That's, yeah, we would want that.
I mean, on the setbacks, which are kind of your main divergence, on the rear setback, I probably am less concerned because obviously it's not principal dwelling.
Right.
And I think that, I know in the code, we have kind of even ancillary structures can be within those setbacks. So that's a little less of a concern. I do struggle. I know you've talked to the side to side. I struggle with it, and I'll give you the reason I struggle with it. You've got a 2-acre lot across the street from a 3rd-acre lot. I mean, that 2-acre lot is enormous in this development. I mean, absolutely enormous. And you've got a couple of acres that are there, and there's still a 10-foot side back on an acre lot. Like, I just can't fathom saying, yeah, that makes sense to me. I mean, if you can't build a house on an acre and you still need 10 foot on the sides, I just don't see it. And that's why I'm like, you've asked for 10 foot. What I struggle with is the divergences you're asking for are kind of blanket across the neighborhood. I would prefer that they were targeted to where you think you need them. And the reason I say that is I don't see a need for a 10-foot side divergence on an acre lot, a half-acre lot, a 2-acre lot, or I mean, a 2-acre lot. Maybe on some of these tinier ones, it makes more sense, but it doesn't. I think, and we've mentioned before, based on the size of some of those really big lots, you could maybe maneuver some things, and you might be able to get rid of all of it, or you may still find, like 36 to 35. You may have some need, but I would rather see you target the need that you have as opposed to making it apply across.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I think that's fair. I think those big lots,
We're not gonna be able to identify all that tonight.
No. Well, we're not, well, we can, clearly, Patrick, there's lots, starting to the left, lot 4, 12, 13, 20, 21, 22, 23, probably, those are all on cul-de-sacs or back and corners. Those are enormous lots. And I think that's his point.
Yeah. So
I'm fine with, making that there.
Because I hit the right lots?
Well, I mean,
Or something that would work for everybody.
Well, taking them off where they don't need to be on though, it definitely, I mean, that's,
After you get a plan there, so I'm talking about 4, which, that's the biggest long haul. That's the one that really.
yeah.
And
well,
then,
but I mean, I'm not just saying, well, let's just take it off of 4 and we're done.
no, I'm saying 4,
I think there's work across the whole thing that could be done to remove some of the tags. And I'd rather see it targeted to, instead of just saying this lot, we'll hurry up and remove them. I think there's space because you've got a 2 and some 1s. That maybe, I mean, a 2-acre lot across from a 3rd-acre lot, those are very different homes.
Yeah.
I mean, hugely variation.
and probably they're never gonna be anywhere near the setbacks and anything.
Right, and that's why I say, I struggle with, say, a 2-acre lot, the same house as on a 3rd acre, you're gonna end up with a huge volume of green that you're telling us people don't want side yards. The side yard on that's gonna be enormous. I mean, I think you could adjust those lot sizes in a few areas to maybe add some volume across lines, such as between the cul-de-sac and 4, or other areas where it's not so packed in and then super wide on the corners.
David, make a suggestion, because I think there's numerous people here have an issue with this side yard thing. Is there an opportunity to match what Berlin did, so there's 25, but we have the overhang? Would that work for people?
Well, I don't know, I mean, part of these, like, when you say that you're comparing it to other neighborhoods, a lot of those, and I don't know exactly what Berlin Farms has, but a lot of them have substantial, like, parks or other amenities that were kind of as part of that,
Or maybe they're not, going to the rear.
They were big enough to provide
Right, and it
everything.
seems like you wanna, reduce the side, and then like there's other, some of these are huge, but then some of them, like, you're also taking the porch into the rear yard, so some of these are gonna feel really small. So I guess in my opinion, I just wanna leave it 25,
Patrick,
I'm okay with that.
we're gonna drop that to her.
Well,
And I-
remove the diversity.
And I think too, like, and maybe I misunderstood, well, I'm misreading, but it says for number 2, consider reducing only one side yard setback with the total side yard meeting the required 25. And so I know you were saying earlier about, how would you give some to one side and some to the other, but I think with some of these side load garages, like if you were to shift the footprint in that way, where you have 2 side load garages that are next to each other, that's where your smaller boundary is, but then it allows for the larger boundary or larger setback in between the houses on the other side that aren't.
You slide the house to the right, you need a side loading garage, you have 20 feet of concrete or 24 feet of concrete to make that turn. Then you have 15, 12 and a half on the other side, or whatever.
So we'll stipulate, we'll remove that divergence, so we'll just go with each other.
You've left money in to address some of the lack of, I guess, what we call typically the active green space. So you've got your pond and the green space, but you've got some money in there, where you're committing now kind of the gazebos, picnic tables, that type of thing. So that's definitely a plus that we like to see. Side load, you committed to kind of a percentage. Typically we ask for a percentage in identifying lots. I'm okay with not identifying lots because I think you're gonna get there. That's probably not an issue. Read somewhere in where it talked about a model home, but I couldn't find anything more detailed. It had like Plan Tab 8 model home, but then I never saw any other mention of it. So I don't know if you would plan on a model home, or maybe that was something I just kind of misread in one of the charts. If you were planning a model, I guess that might be easier. Are you planning? Do you not know because of the developer?
I think the thought was, when we were putting the application together, that we were thinking about putting up sign packs together and doing a detailed model exhibit. But, then we agreed, we'll just comply with the law on criteria that's already laid down in the code. As the law, we're fine with that, we don't need to do anything special. And then when that time comes, we'll probably have to work with you to make sure we're compliant. Sometimes that can get a little.
Yeah, there'll be a meeting with the BZA, but the Zoom are usually pretty simple.
Yeah, how many signs,
Yeah.
where do they park, how does the whole thing work?
Lighting, yeah.
We'll deal with it at that time.
Another one I had, you've given diagrams, or pictures of the homes are kind of expected, similar type homes.
Yeah.
But because it is a final, I would like call outs of materials of construction, because that's not really, like, it's sort of implied by your pictures. But when you get into siding and other things of that nature, you can give me a picture, but a picture can be printed by a computer doesn't really give us that detail. And I couldn't find it anywhere else, in your literature as far as what types of material construction you
Yeah, I mean, we didn't see where your code required it, so you're right, you didn't specify. So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, typically, yeah, we more want, like concrete, cementatious siding, not vinyl. We're looking for natural stone or brick.
So,
for the
no
stone thing.
vinyl.
Yeah.
That's what this was.
I mean, it's the biggest one, yeah, typically.
And given this, once again, given the quality of this subdivision, the size of these lots, unless we do that's fine. And so I've got the whole litany of, so, you know, some inches siding and stucco, stone or faux stone, natural, we got a natural materials list, that's fine, we'll commit to that.
And it's just, I mean, again, because it's the one, we kind of move from 2-stage to 1-stage. Typically, by the time we get to the second one, we ask for it. So, and if not, we get caught kind of after the fact because there's no detail in it anywhere. So, and then I didn't necessarily see it called out. I don't necessarily have the specifics on it, but I know from when we get into it, you've identified where your CBUs are. But typically, I know by the time you get to trustees, there's going to be a lot of questions around parking for those and expectations of parking. So I'll just kind of forewarn you. I know it didn't really seem, you talked about you only have parking on one side of the street, but they get very specific in that because you have a CBU, you have to lock parking to it.
We have details for the CDUs.
You have the detail of the boxes themselves, but you don't call out how you're going to provide resident parking.
The parking for the CDUs is just going to be on-street parking. So,
And the reason typically, I want to say our trustees typically have asked that they be specified, because if I own a house next to CBU and I park cars out front there, that takes away your CBU parking.
we could put a sign that says short-term parking or something on that. The intent is people are going to walk to it, right? That's what the hope. But,
I mean, every neighborhood we have in here recently specified call-out parking because no one walks through this. Especially one, I mean, starting today, I mean, for the next few weeks, you would not see people walking from one part of the neighborhood when it's 20 degrees to the middle. They're going to drive, they're going to park. And you have to assume and expect that you're going to have on-street parking.
So are you asking us to provide parking, or are you asking us?
Well, I need you, I'm not saying that, I'm saying what you're going to get the question from the trustee, and you're going to have to be able to answer it as to how if those CDs are there and the residences and the developments they've had recently, they're asking for specifically how you call out parking. And especially from a standpoint of, because I realize you say, oh, people walk. People will not walk to these unless they live right next to them. So if I'm 10 houses down, it's 20 degrees out, I'm not walking, and you know no one will walk. They're gonna park, and you have to account for
One
that.
thing we have in our favor is we put a CBU per page, it's 2 CBUs for 44. It's not like an apartment complex where we have these giant bangs of CBUs and they make amendment spaces out of. That's not the intent. It's really meant because it's should be like that. So we'll talk about maybe some ideas on what you want to do.
Yeah, that's why I didn't want to call it anything specific, but it's gonna come up. You fortunately are already kind of down the path of parking only on one side, which probably will help you in some way. But it will become, I know from the trustees' perspective, they ask a lot of questions about those, and it tends to be around how people are gonna park.
Okay.
And you will need to make sure you have curb cuts with it, so that wheelchair accessible, handicap accessible. Just giving you the forewarning. Those will be coming at you.
Okay.
And I think that probably is everything for me.
Okay. Aaron, you want to go ahead?
Sure. I was just to go piggyback on the parking for the CDUs, like over here, I would, you've got a lot of usable space right there, not that you want it to be visible from these lots, but, just making those little entrance, parallel parking almost to the CDUs, might be the answer at that point. Here,
That's what I'm thinking.
I'm not so
Yeah,
sure,
something like that.
I'm thinking Evans Farms, how they have those little sliding slots that go.
These are all public streets, public standards, county's gonna definitely have a say. But I think to your point, what we don't want is a car to be parking there for 9 hours. I think maybe some parking restrictions, mostly enforced by the HOA, is probably gonna get it done, but we'll talk about it. Hopefully no one's sitting there for more than a minute.
I think people will come, if they're getting a package in the mail, but, I know some of them have like the bigger boxes at the bottom of the keys, just for heavy or something that, you need to make sure that they have access.
Well, to Joe's point, with 44 lots, therefore state 22 in the face, it's not like there's gonna be a traffic signal there.
For sure. And then I had a question about the east border. Do you know how wide roughly the buffering is currently? You said you were looking to keep 10 feet of it, but I should know the tree line,
I'm committed to this.
so keeping 10 foot of,
Present.
on that.
Right.
And then is there from all the pictures that I saw, it doesn't seem like there's much buffering right here on the northeast corner. There's much of a tree line.
Can we answer that? Reserve the day if we needed to add something. So we can do that. What we've done in the past, obviously we'd like to keep those existing trees, and that is the buffer. Is the existing trees. But if it's determined at some point that, hey, the existing trees are not adequate, then we would supplement it with, a couple evergreens or something. But looking at aerial, and I've been out there a dozen times, I think we're there, but in order to, I guess, convince you, we would agree that we would supplement any section of that buffer with additional planting if it was determined not to be adequate. The 10 feet is really there to protect the roots, to keep the land development from grading up too close to those and attacking those trees. I think 10 feet should be enough to do that. Some of those tree rows look kind of deep. So if you think that there's an area where it's a little spotty, we could agree to supplement.
And even in this little section right here, which is the property that way, doesn't seem like there's much side buffering on those two lots either to that neighbor. And honestly, the buffering around the 5 acre lot doesn't really fly with me. I mean, you've got 100-foot wide lots and three evergreen trees. I mean, you've still got a substantial gap in between. If there's no mounding or anything that, they're gonna be looking right into that property.
When you look straight on at a buffer, you'll see gaps, particularly when they're immature. But as you look down the side, they stack up, you'll get 100%. And what I didn't want to do is put them too close together, because then they start to shade out, and you particularly lose those bottom branches. So I think it ended up being kind of like a 30-foot spacing. A spruce will mature out at 15, but I think they're not going to be touching and have 100% opacity after 5 years. But a homeowner can always add more. But this was something that, talking with that property owner, they thought was something that they would.
As long as they've stated that they're comfortable with that, because I know I have a acquaintance that's an existing farm FR1 owner, and the development that went in next, they are now having to put 100 foot of trees to buffer the subdivision, and they're not happy. So I just, again, it's not only somebody who lives there now, but if in the future something changes, they sell, we want to make sure that they have substantial protection for their property and privacy. again, I agree with the setbacks, I know that was one of my bigger things. But also kind of the footprint, you know, I feel like we're asking, or you're asking for setback divergencies, and I know it's only a deck or a patio in some cases, but if we've got these large lots, you know, then we're asking for these extra little setbacks, and I know it's just a 5-foot encroachment on the front, and it's just a 10-foot on the back, but, you know, when you're getting into some of these lots right here, I think it's, here, or here, when it's 25 feet, and you only have, 10 foot of patio coming out to that, so you're 15 foot from the lot line, it's really small. I live in the same type of footprint. I just feel like there shouldn't need to be an excessive lot coverage, and especially if you've got these side load garages, like you've got a lot of concrete and a lot of building.
Could I speak up? You just say the reason we went for those encroachments, in talking with IN Custom Home Builders, their biggest concern is that 50-foot setback on the rear. That's why we asked for those encroachments in the first place. So like surrounding there, those are 50-foot rear yards. That's why we were asking. I'm not trying to argue with you, I'm just trying to tell you that's the reason why we went there for the encroachments, because the rear yard setback pretty long.
Okay, so, again, is it just so then some of the ones that are 25 feet that you're concerned about?
Well, I guess with the 50-foot rear yard setback, it shrinks that area. That's the reason.
Right, but I'm referring to the ones in the middle with the smaller lots.
What we're pointing right now, the text in our ask on that divergence is it also is included with lots of the 25 foot setback.
And it kind of goes to my statement where you continue to say, I've got these big lots, it's gonna put these big houses and it's gonna be great, these big lots. But then you've asked for a front encroachment, a back encroachment, over on the side, but you haven't specified specific need, you've just kind of blanketed it based on the way you've written it. And so it becomes very difficult to look at a lot of these bigger lots and say, oh yeah, on a 2-acre lot, you need to be able to go into the backs, and you need to go into the front, you need to go on the sides. Like, that doesn't make sense. Now, maybe on some of these other lots, you talked about the 50-foot setback, and that's why, it would actually be preferential to me if you could identify specifically where you think you have a need, as opposed to just a blanket statement. And it is just because the variation of all the different setbacks, and as you talk through it, you talk as though you don't really need it everywhere, but the coding and the way you've written the divergence is everywhere. And that's a struggle to say, when I look at it, I don't really agree with it because I don't see a need in a lot of the different lots. And so I would struggle with that.
Joe, we have 31 with 50-foot rear yard setback, is that correct? 31 lots.
Yeah, you got 6 lots that have got 130-foot depth on it. And I know that's where you got that comment, was on those 130.
Yeah.
And that's just a factor of how that cost that came out and the distance that we have and the constraints of the geometry of the site. That's probably the driver more than anything is those 130s.
I guess I was thinking on the 50-foot setback.
Because those do have a 50-foot off.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's
Sorry, I was thinking street B right there. The
28 through 33.
18 through 19 and 27 through 24. You've got, and obviously there's the setback here. You got your walking path, and then you've got a 25-foot setback, and then you're now asking for 10, so your patio's, right along that borderline. Yeah, so you've got a walking path and you've got people kids, I would assume, because it's connecting to the school, and they're walking and they're 15 feet away from somebody's patio. Does that make sense?
Those lots are 170.
It says says one,
It
it says 140.
Those are
We just
140.
asked for the
140.
setbacks. What's that? I want to resolve this now.
Those are 140.
Is if we ask for the setback on what would amount to be probably 15-20% of the lots, just a couple of the lots. Because frankly, you know, these are 170 and some of these bigger lots.
Those are
Not gonna need
140.
140.
140. Here's 140, 140.
You could probably live with taking the encroachment away on the 140.
130 is out of the serious to do. Those are a problem. Those are
That's where you really need it.
very much so.
Where are the 130s?
Oh wait, I see one.
Yeah, there's a couple of them. They're against the existing property. The 130s are all surrounding on one side. So off of Street A. As well, I mean.
I was thinking those 6 right there for 150.
That was simplified. That would be all, yeah. As a compromise, I think. That corner one, 7. Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
Existing homeowner?
What was the question?
Couldn't they move the road so it's not up against the existing homeowner, they wouldn't need that person?
Shift the road to the, what is
To
it?
the south.
South, yeah.
I think we only asked for those 7, the 130, and we'll follow.
So lots 28 through 33.
We could restrict the encroachment variance to just those lots.
Yeah, I think that includes Georgia.
Well, the thing about 34 is you don't have a 50-foot setback anymore.
Okay.
You have a 25 foot, and
It's
that's,
a corner lot. so
that's to the house next door.
It's got a lot more livable area.
Okay. 28 through 33.
I guess if the board doesn't accept that, I would be willing to propose that.
I would say, the central lot buffer notes you have, evergreen and noted to be hardy to central Ohio, such as Colorado spruce, blue spruce, Norway spruce, and Austrian pine. Colorado blue spruce I would remove because they have rhizosphere needle cast. So if they're in a line like that and one is diseased, it'll disease all of them with carry of water. And it can affect other species too, if it's in the same line.
So which ones do you want to go?
Well, Colorado spruce are blue spruce. Right. So I would remove those. That's just a suggestion on my part.
No, I've heard that input. I like it because it looks a little different, even though it's basically the same plant.
And then you had said with those buffers, they would be the responsibility of the homeowner. So if something happens to those trees and now you've lost your buffering, are you going to make it a requirement that it's replaced by the homeowner, or?
We weren't planning on doing that. I mean, we leave it up to the homeowner. I think they would value those trees more than,
Again,
So-
protection for the 5-acre lot as well is what I'm concerned about.
You get into, I appreciate your comment, but then you get into, it's not common area, it's lot, and so allowing a homeowner association to come on somebody's lot and do work and replace trees gets difficult.
Right, I'm
I
just
mean, I
saying,
understand your point.
putting it in the declarations of some sort of language in that, because say something comes in and takes out, 9 of those trees, and now the farm lot is required to provide buffering if they don't fix it. You know what I'm saying? If the
Yeah, I understand what
homeowner-
you're saying.
Yeah. And your comment, 1, 2, 3, 4, 22, 21, you show landscaping in all of those lots, and they're not common area. The buffering that you're showing to the north and the south, that's all in individual lots. It's not common area. So that, if any, so what you're saying is,
He's talking about these. Is that typically how the township, when they require a buffer, that they have some language to the effect that if one of those trees dies, it's a zoning violation and that property owner has to replace it? Is that how you typically do it?
No, I wouldn't say it's typical of that, because, on a large landscaped area like that, if you have one tree, it's got so much dimension and so many varieties that one tree on something like that dying is a lot different than 3 trees in the back of the property, and that's it. I know a homeowner can put more, but I'm worried about protecting, again, in all these areas, is protecting the current owners from having to pay for buffering because of something happening to those trees. Does that make sense?
Well, we can make it a requirement of the HOA with an easement to come on the property and replace it if necessary.
Or in your declarations for the HOA, that for the residents, that they must replace within a certain time frame.
You like that better, Patrick?
I'm flexible on that. I understand what you're saying. I think those motivations are, new homeowners, both parties win by that buffer. I think somebody wins, I think the new homeowners win by that buffer.
Just often with developments that are typically larger than this, those are within public spaces.
That's
So
right,
this is-
yeah.
This is different.
Yeah, that's what I usually see is there's a
Yeah,
kind of open space boundary and all these trees are in those, and so it's pretty easy for the HOA to take care of.
We saw it as something that wasn't required, it was a courtesy to the property owner who got the property, felt like it was a good thing to do. I still believe that. I mean, we can work on the type of species, and if we want to make sure they're protected in some way, we can figure out how to do that.
Well, I think Patrick's willing to say that the burden on the homeowner to the extent that there's a tree loss in that area on a lot, that the homeowner's responsibility for that for some period of time.
we would hate to make HOAs really onerous, but once again, there's just no other mechanism to keep that
That's right, and
protection.
the issue is always.
And I don't think it is necessarily onerous. It's like when you have an HOA declarations and they say you have to maintain your landscaping, between the sidewalk and the street, and it's a violation of the homeowners association if the homeowner doesn't do what's in the declarations.
It's just always about the enforcement. This is what it comes down to.
And that's what, like,
Yeah,
So we'll figure something out.
we'll provide the language.
I appreciate that, because I know that's a sticky.
I do appreciate it too. I think everything else I had was covered under what all was said. Lot 28.
That's fine.
Yeah. Is there gonna be any kind of a median in between the road, cause it's just the two exit one in, two exit one in?
Yeah, that's a county requirement. It won't be striped, but it's a county requirement that it's 3 lane as you exit. You just like a little water feeding there.
Okay. I don't think the distance, I was just wondering the distance between the road and that first lot.
It's 55 feet to the right of way.
Okay.
And it's gotta be another 20 plus to the pavement.
I don't remember it showing where the driveway is for that one.
You didn't show driveway.
We don't show that. Have we made-
One of them you show driveways.
Yeah, on drawing 4 or 5.
You actually have it on, you actually have it
Section 6.
Oh, you did show.
to the west, yeah, not to the, moving that driveway to the opposite side, towards 29 instead of towards the road, would be good. That way they do have enough.
What 28?
Yeah, 28, the driveway for 28, making sure that it's further into the neighborhood, closer to lot 29. So the driveways be on the garage mirror.
And I think that's where they were concerned about the intersection of Street B and Street A with lot 29. So I don't know if that's a spot where you have two side load garages that we talked about, the distance being between them being smaller. Cause they didn't want a driveway coming out here across from the Street B.
You'd like to see 28 and 29 grouped together more? Basically football.
Just not so much grouped together, but just taking the driveway off the rendering that you have it on 4/5, drawing number 4/5. And if you actually just flip it so that it's over on the side.
This one.
Exactly. Yeah, this one doesn't need to be here, but, well, yes, because it's actually, right, because it broke the, yes.
And that's okay.
It should
Still
be.
enough space between them.
Exactly.
Maybe like some on the high side of the lot, but.
Yeah, yep.
So we can.
And you could probably do that on lot 11 as well. Yeah, exactly. That was the other one that I identified.
We were getting the curb gutter there as appropriate.
Okay.
But I think that's what, Johnny had concerns about 29 and where it exited them.
We're gonna move this one to here and this one to here, further away. This one is problematic because I got a curb ramp here. So we get the final engineering, that's why we made that commitment to just do the best we can on a lot like that. Fortunately, it's the end of a cul-de-sac and it's really low volume, but I think we can do something out there.
And like I said, even if, I mean, I know it's harder on this one because of the smaller footprint, but these seem to be a lot, or wider than
Yep.
these. And that's where I was thinking that the driveway to driveway space in between.
And actually, I just noticed it, but I would recommend the same thing on 1 and 44. Because it shows the driveway towards.
Yeah.
And if there's side load, you see the
Yeah.
cars would be driving.
Yep.
And that would be my, I mean.
Yeah.
If it wasn't a side load, I'd be less concerned, but if it is side load, the first thing you would see
You
going
got
into
those
the road
roads,
is two side loads.
go. You were saying. Doesn't apply.
Well, if it wasn't.
Yeah. Driveway on this side of the.
If you move it to the other side, it prevents the side load from facing.
And did you make note of the buffering on where reserve C is for the lot behind it, just to make sure, like, it doesn't look like there's a line of trees, it just looks like sporadic trees on the current owner's lot? Jeff Reed Jordan's? The buffering on, right here, there's no buffering on the sides from his lot, and where the reserve is, it just looks like sporadic trees. I'd like to see a buffer there,
Okay.
especially with that being a CBU, not that it's a gathering place, but people driving in and staring into.
Right, how about you?
Well, I've got a few. As far as the rear yard setback and stuff, we've got a lot of subdivisions that over the years that we have done a secondary setback. And really, that's all it's referred to. And that is, 25-foot, rear yard setback and a 10-foot, secondary for pools, sheds, fire rings, anything that's not part of the structure. And so that's pretty common. So that's really not been considered a divergence.
Right.
Okay. Now, the one that I do have a problem with is at front. We have not got any subdivisions that we have allowed anybody to do an encroachment, porch or otherwise in the front. And I really would hate to see opening that can of worms, because you're not gonna close it. You might as well change the code. So I don't think that's a good idea at all. Most everything else has been pretty well covered. I want to find out about the school, since you're going to connect the retention pond to the school retention pond. Is that going to require modification to the school? Or the school's retention pond?
David, you know, waiting for that? That's our engineer, David Dennis, in the back.
David Denniston, 781 Science Boulevard, Indiana. We have talked with the county engineer and the county soil and water. We've met with them a couple times. We've supplied them a report, and we do not believe that we'll have to modify their outlet. Their outlet can handle what we're going to control our release rate and water quality before we put it into their basins. So that'll all be taken care of on our site. And this will be releasing at a rate that will, probably about 3 human years, raise the water level in that. So they've given us preliminary approval to do that. We've got to refine our report by getting a little bit of additional field work on getting the final design. But beyond that, they pretty much signed off on it, and I've got there's an email in the packet that talks about the fact that they've given us their blessing before.
I was just wondering on that, whether it was going to be spread to the taxpayers. If that was a requirement.
So what we've seen is our numbers so far, we will not need to modify their, control ours so that it does not overrule.
Alright, that's good. Let's see. I might remind you as far as on the parking, which is one side, that's what, that we do that, is they generally do not allow parking, street parking on the cul-de-sac. That's for the purpose of first responders, fire, school buses. Yeah, as a retired school bus driver too. So you'll probably be required to post signs to that effect, also as we do in all the other cul-de-sacs in this township. So we need to include that. Let's see, the only other comment I had was I appeared on the landscaping where you did have the rendering of the entrance sign and stuff. It appeared that the lighting thing that you had with it would be uplighting. Our township requires downlighting. I'm sure you can find a way to downlight that since it's got I'll do it for it. So please take that into consideration. And that's the end of my comments. But I do urge you to don't do an encroachment on the front, encroach on the back, not on the front.
I have a question about that. So you talked about the main structure and then you talked about things like patios. So those don't have a roof line, right? So on a front porch, typically there's a roof line. Is that what you're referring to, or?
The point would be the porch whether it has a roof on it or not, yeah, it would be outside the principal dwelling.
Okay. But if it's part of a roof line, then it is part of the principal dwelling. How I see it, is that, so I guess my question is, when you say that 5-foot encroachment, are you needing something like a flagstone patio or a set of stairs? What I'm taking away from that is would not have a roof over it. Because that would make it part of the primary structure.
Okay, I guess I'm used to that encroachment being like a front porch where it's open air, there's no heating and cooling, you step up, you're protected while you're knocking on the front door. That is what we're thinking. That's what I'm used to seeing, but again, the reason for that encroachment was just on those 6 or 7 lots because of the 50-foot rear. That's the concern with that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to kind of envision what you are anticipating wanting to put in that space.
On the type of area, kind of open air porch to the front. The cover front door, that type of thing.
Yeah, so like I said, what my brain sees then is like a flagstone flat area, which I wouldn't call a porch. It's a
Right, yeah, I'm
patio.
gonna say that's not a porch, yeah.
So,
That's not a structure.
exactly,
Anything that's got structure,
right.
steps,
So, but that 5-foot
Concrete.
encroachment would not be
Build
structural. It would
the
just be-
foundation. We haven't allowed it yet.
I just want to be clear on that, because, Ray has a problem and he's saying, opening a can of worms. I appreciate that, because, yeah, we've done that inadvertently before, and we were not happy for ourselves. So, something that's more of a flagstone patio, I'm not so concerned.
Okay.
But once it's got a roof, then I see it as part of the structure, and that's more what I think of as a porch. I'm thinking the swing and the,
Where are we on those 6 lots? That's what I'm focused on. What's the rear encroachment that we're asking for?
No, now we're limiting that rear yard to those 6 lots, right?
What is that?
Well, it's a 50-foot, so you get an extra 10 feet.
yeah, so that's what the variance you were asking for was 10 foot.
So you're saying you'd be willing to limit that 5-foot front encroachment to those same lots?
Well, I've already said, yes, I would be, but I think this one doesn't want to open that can of worms. I understand.
Well, I think he's saying he didn't want to do it all on your lot.
He doesn't want to do it wrong.
If you're getting it on the back where you can go a little bit further, do you really need it on the front?
But you can't go further with the principal structure.
That's what I'm trying to make sure that.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm
It's all
right.
done. So what do if the 25-foot sets up a nightmare for the township in the future, the rear yard can solve that problem just as well. The question is, just 10 is up. I think we take 50, 25, or 75, that leaves with 130, that leaves you at 55, but I get 10 foot I can encroach, but I'm not encroaching the building, I'm only encroaching the patio, right?
Correct.
It's tight. You know what I mean? I think that's tight from the standpoint of the level of these homes that are going in here. That's the only reason why.
Those 6 homes have to have a slightly smaller footprint.
Yeah. That's what we gotta do.
And I mean, you see that around the township, right? I know when we built our house, we had to fit it in this and we used every single square inch, right? But we knew what we were allowed to build, and that is, I mean, that's pretty common in a lot of the neighborhoods. When you go in, you know that only these floor plans will fit on this lot. This lot will not allow for this other floor plan because it's too big of a footprint. So I think that that's pretty fair on those 6 lots to say, okay, you know what? You gotta pick a different lot if you want this larger home. So they have to reduce down to,
So, Patrick, are you
Just like
okay
this
limiting that 5-foot encroachment to the 6 lots?
I don't care, but I don't think that's what he's supposed to say.
We're going to eliminate the back,
They're getting
eliminate the front and just
Yeah.
say you're getting it on the back on those ones. And that's it.
They're eliminating it on those 6 lots and only giving us the 10 on the back. I don't know if you can open, I'm just gonna ask the question. 15 on the back instead of 5 in the front, 10 in the back, would you consider 15 on the back, that would keep it.
All of those lots have 50 foot rear.
I know, that's why I'm asking 15 foot, an extra 5 is, yeah, but we're only losing 5 on the front, I'm just trying to see if you would consider that, if you're not, then you are.
I would be better with that than
Yeah, I think that makes more sense.
on those 6 lots.
Yeah, I want to talk about those.
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll eliminate the front yard, 5 foot, and just ask for those 6 lots, 15 foot in the rear, because they have a 50 foot setback. And, that'd be great.
It's not 35 feet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes
Separates them
sense.
from-
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, I don't feel bad about that.
Okay.
Okay, so my next question, talk about opening a can of worms, I don't want to go here, but I must ask, sorry. This lot coverage ratio. I want to talk about that. Requires all structures and paving be limited to no more than 50% of the lot and structures not cover more than 25% of the lot. So, I mean, you got a wide variety of square footage of lots, and assuming a wide variety of footprints of homes, do you really anticipate that you're gonna cover more than?
I think the
That
reason for that
percentage.
emergence was because we got the feeling that that didn't apply anywhere else, so why are we applying it
But,
to
and
us?
I don't know if that's true, I mean, honestly, I gotta
don't
say,
either, that's-
I
applied for a modification of my property, but I did the calculations, I don't know, is it?
We got some feedback.
That's as far as zoning.
yeah, I mean,
If
yeah,
somebody-
it's like mind blowing here.
I generally don't do it. I haven't had that situation here yet, but if somebody were to come and ask me if they could add on their driveway, like, another car width on their property, we don't have a permit required for that. So how would I enforce that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm
That's
just,
the
this
issue.
is all new.
This is where this is
I was
where it gets
surprised to see it.
difficult.
I didn't,
So, yeah, tell me more.
And I think the problem is that 25%. That's a very low percentage on a lot. So this afternoon, I just Googled Earth, I was just painting around the township, and it didn't take me very long to find a lot. And did the area count and divided it, and sure enough, this house takes up 31% of the lot.
Gotcha.
Think about 25% is a pretty low number. So-
I agree.
And if we meet the side setback, we meet the rear setback, we do everything else we're supposed to do, what's the point of a 25% max coverage of the house?
I think
I'm
there's,
not
I think
disagreeing, I
there's,
just want to clarify that we're all fighting about the same
Yeah.
thing, because I was like,
That's
that's
how I read it.
news to me.
And then you throw the driveway on there, you get up to 50%.
Right.
50 is not that hard to get.
Silo with that turn.
And the ranches are really getting big lately. They're really kind of spread out that maximum buildable area. So that's why we don't have a specific number that we can say, oh, this house is gonna exceed it. They're custom built. We don't have, but we're trying to set the table for success.
Well, and I would say, once again, my problem with that is not so much exceeding the 25%, but it's that it's, 44 units, and that says all 44 units can exceed 25%.
But we
See,
won't
that's
exceed the
necessary.
setbacks. Everything will be within its bounds.
Right.
yeah.
So I would like to see that defined pretty specifically. I'm not even disagreeing with your premise, I get it. It's still our code, so we need to revisit that.
We're going to be talking about that later.
No worries, okay, that's on the list.
50 with the driveway and all parts.
Yeah.
It's just.
I know, but I'm saying we do work for 50.
Didn't know that. I didn't see the Monroe Township, I didn't see the Berkshire, I don't know why everyone has it in there.
I don't.
Well, I'm not saying I don't often see it, but I don't see the two-step, the 50-25. That's, the 25 is what really threw me off.
I got you. Okay, so I think it's something we need to discuss, definitely. But is there perchance that you guys can say, on these lots, we feel we need to exceed that, and specify the divergence rather than across the board for all 44 units? Does that make sense?
Because that would be saying like lot 4. If you're 50% of lot 4, that's a lot, It's a huge.
Or like,
Well, I think the way that I look at this is that the two very much are in contradiction to each other. Because this is saying you have a much smaller buildable area with much larger setbacks than what all of our setbacks are allowing. So
You're right, it's more restricted than your setback.
it's much more restrictive than the
But
setback.
then you get the 50-25, and it's.
It doesn't make any sense, no. So that's something that we need to go back internally and look at
Yep.
modifying. Because if we want to stand by our setbacks, we have to stand by our setbacks, but if we want to stand by this is completely different.
I can see this more applying to like an FR1 lot where you have 3 acres and you have your setbacks and you say, okay, this 3 acre lot, you can't cover more than 25% of this lot because
Yeah.
that's a huge area to cover, and then you get somebody that comes down and builds 10 pole barns in a row
So, yeah, I
from
think-
setback to setback.
True, okay,
I think that's more the spirit of the code.
okay.
It didn't take into consideration that we're gonna be doing these plan districts.
So we need internal work on that.
What's that?
But your code says. it's-
Yes, and that's what we're still working out, some kinks in our code, I think, as every township or municipality does for the life of the code.
Would you anticipate going over the 50% or just anticipate going, like the 25% is like the problem, right?
I think the 25% is really the problem, but I think we need to look at it further, but I think it's the 25% test that's gets goofy, I think.
Sure.
And then
I
come
think
back to the
you're
same question about enforcement.
Sure. I think you're right, but if you were able to call out, we think on these lots, X, Y, Z, that divergence would apply. Because clearly, I don't think you're gonna, build on, what is it, lot 4, and take over more than 25%. However, I think it would help us.
Yeah, you're right, there's a broad enough variation in lot sizes here, which is to the Sean's point that, you look at it and say, why do you need this on these lots? And I think we've kind of narrowed down and say, we get it, where you need it on certain lots. I think that's a fair comment.
Well, it's easier for us to, swallow. We don't love divergences. I think you probably noticed that, right? So when you're
You
able
have
to
to find the
say,
township procedure
here's-
does.
here's where we think this is necessary.
Right.
That just really helps us
Okay. Yep.
work through it.
Okay.
So public roads,
And I could see on this, like, I was just doing quick math, but that would be like on lot 18 where you have roughly 12,000 square feet, and a quarter of that would be 3,100 square foot footprint.
Yeah.
At 25%, so.
Yeah, I want to talk about it. We'll look at the lot specifics, but also think we just diverge over 25. A little bit 50 might work for us with some lot specificity. to it.
Are we really talking about the 2 1-acre lots and the 2 acre lots and the rest of them you just settle on? Is that what we're really, there's really 3 lots that are pretty enormous.
Yeah, 4, 12, and 13.
Then that would be something we can certainly talk about and resolve. But the rest of them feel like the 25% is challenging and
well, and I guess I would also say, when you're saying 25% is very hard to achieve. Do you want 40%? I mean, what are you suggesting? Yeah, we want some definition.
I'm gonna throw out, I'm winging it here. Okay, I did not expect this conversation, but 50%, is that unreasonable?
Well, that's what I'm proposing, Patrick, is that you just diverge from the 25%.
Okay.
So you get a lot, and that's what I usually see, and that's what we usually see, is a lot, if you got a lot coverage standard, it's 50%.
So across the board, that it's 50%, not just the structure, but everything.
Everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the pervious, everything pervious, everything impervious.
Okay. I don't know, what do you think?
I think that is reasonable. I think that some specificity of just saying, except on lot 4, 12, 13, 14, just to put a little bit of a safety note in there. Everybody could get on board with that.
What do you say, Ray?
What are those lots again?
4,
4, 12,
12,
and 13.
13, 14.
14.
14, okay.
I don't think, you don't need 14, do you? I think,
No.
okay.
It's kind of an in-between size lot.
4, 12, and 13.
Yeah, I don't think I have any argue that. I think, all my other concerns have been addressed by other members, and I appreciate you guys being willing to, work on those divergences. That's a big deal to us, so thank you. So for the next phase here, we want to open up to our audience members. Thank you for being here. So if you have comments, please state your name and your address so that you have that as part of our record. And on your comments, anybody got things to say? I agree.
Well, I would like to just a moment. Terry Jordan, 2862 Berlin Station Road. No matter how you slice the cake, I think 44 houses is too many. And, we own the property at 2862, and, you know, having, mailboxes up against abutting our property, I'd rather we didn't do that. And certainly I'd rather we have some good thick buffer. But 44 houses on 29 acres, I know we're not rural anymore, we're not country anymore. It's all traffic that's gonna be pouring out onto Berlin Station Road. We've got a lot of that now with the build going on across the street from us. And we've got a lot of that all down with all the new places. And it's just, you know, adding so many houses, I question how necessary that is. So, thank you.
Go ahead.
Cracker 2020 Berlin Station Road. I would just like to ask the board to keep in mind that the code does call for certain setbacks, and we should stick to it. We spend a lot of time saying.
Michelle Cook, 2020 Berlin Station Road. I have a question for, there was a comment made about the buffer to the north, which is around the pond and the boxes. Are you adding additional, or are you counting what's there right now in that calculation of the 50% in the winter and 75 during the summer?
Like, do you want the opacity, the cover, tree cover?
Right. Because at one point it sounded like it was new, but then there was another question, you're counting the existing trees that
I
are.
think that counts alone to the new buffering around the 5 acre lot on the job.
Right.
That's the only place we address that.
But what, in your plan, are you adding additional buffer to the homes that are to the north?
That's what I
Requiring
requested.
the passage requirements, so whatever that takes.
You're gonna add
You're talking
additional.
about this one?
No, the.
That's the school.
By the retention pond.
But right behind. the-
Retention
We're
pond.
gonna add here, and we're gonna add here.
But what about to the left from the pond?
The property.
Yes.
Yeah, we agreed to that.
Go there to a Gregory, they're asking.
Are you adding additional, or are you
I
putting,
think this complies with your buffer requirement.
so you're not adding anything, you're just keeping what is existing today?
No, this is all
No,
proposed.
that's all new.
That's new.
That's
Okay,
all
so I just
new.
need that clarified.
And then we added around that pond. we
Right,
added-
you caught out because it's kind of more sparse there.
Mhm.
Correct.
And the same on the northeast corner, just making sure that line of buffering is, I think it's Gadlack's property.
Thank you. Any other audience members?
Dan Jacobs, 1983 Gregory Road, Delaware, 43015. The lot across the street from us on Berlin Station, the builders have raised the elevation 4 feet from what was natural. So the houses are 4 feet higher, and they're bringing in dirt for their lawns and backyard and so forth. Are they going to do that on this? Because there are drainage problems on the northeast corner of this general property. Not only
lot 4, but also our neighbors on Berlin Station. Anyway, are you going to take the spoils off-site, or are you gonna build mounds? And if so, where are they gonna be?
David, this is a question to you. We have not gotten that far into the design. If there are areas that need to be picked up, the county will ensure that we have to transport that water through our site and down to the basin in the southeast corner. We've got storm sewers that will be installed. The excess dirt will probably be wasted on some of the lots, but there won't be a lot. We have the basin dirt, but we need that for the construction of the streets and the lots.
Go ahead.
Micah Sparks, 2048 Gregory Court. Used to be a road, but it's been ruined now by developers. 3 or 4 roads off my road, so not enjoyable. I work in a lot of subdivisions, a lot of developments for most of the home builders. I mean, this is better than most of the ones I see. Don't love it because I'm right across the street from it. You have a lot of water issues on this property, and I'm hoping that you have a plan to get that water out, but not too much. Because my pond is so 4 or 5 foot down, has not recovered from the drought. I wonder if the big ass pond that MI built is affecting that or anything else. Well, we're having water issues, and I think those need addressed one way or another. I see you got 2 phases on this. Are you gonna do it all at once? Or are you like just put all the roads in and everything and then just sell one phase with houses, sell that out, and then sell the second phase? Okay, but you will build everything first, right? All the roads?
No, we would build the first phase, and then the second phase will probably be a couple years later.
Okay.
Depending on sales.
So nice whole
Site
house.
development space.
Okay, that makes sense. And then the sewer is gonna come in from manhole 11, memory right? Is that coming in on the northeast side of the property and then coming down? And then the question is, is there gonna be a way for us other home builders or homeowners around there to tie into that sewer someday if we want?
David, what is the connectivity requirement that Delaware County is having to make on
I'm not sure whether I don't think they force anybody to that. If it's within reach, they can probably tie in, but it will come across the south side of.
Do you want to specify which lots? Yeah, do you want to do it up here and specify which lots it is?
The part that I'm showing is off of that map where the sewer's coming from. It's from the east. It's not
Kind of off the school, kind of a little northeast of where we are.
Yeah, so
So
you can show the
what happens when
lots.
it comes on site.
It comes from over here on the school, comes through, comes down, and then across the school site, and then angles between these 2 lots to get on site, and it'll be along the streets within the subdivision. There's really not any touch points on that sewer for the surrounding properties. It picks up here. This is what's called manhole 11, comes across the school. Along this property, and this property is the only one really that's adjacent to the rest of it, just picks up internally in the subdivision.
David, on the 5 acres, though, we will bring it to the property line.
To the 5 acre piece, yes. It'll be brought across where that.
Is that line gonna be big enough? If you guys force Tony out over the years, put in about 10 more houses in that spot?
Just pre-planning. Oh, in the 5 acres? Yeah, we'll have to include that in our tributary calculations, that 5 acres.
I'm trying to go anywhere. Tony Ramos, Hector Ramos, but I own the 5 acres.
when I talk to Patrick, and, you know, like, I mean, I like that they put the trees around and stuff like that, I'm concerned. I guess, you know, there's a lot of things I didn't even think about while we were sitting here, but all these houses around me, or you guys know about fences in there? There's a house that's in that fences, so my question is this. Yeah, well, my question, and I just thought of this, and I'm not trying to bust out here, Patrick, and backbone conversations, and I'm always up front with everybody, but if I got 15 houses around me and 10 of them all got different fences and they all come back to the back of my property, we'd be looking at a hodgepodge of craziness. So my question is like, I'm just kind of wondering about that, and then, you know, it's like, hey, you guys are worried about people walking through the park, and this is where my mind started thinking, well, oh, you're worried about somebody going through the backyard, but nobody concerned about walking through my backyard.
No,
You know,
yeah,
I've got two,
exactly.
you know, I've got 2 dogs there, and they won't leave the property. I mean, they'll go right to the edge, but my concern is that, you know, I guess that came up, was like, wow, is there gonna be a bunch of people running across the property trying to get the backyard, and things like that? And I just didn't know, I mean, I understand the tree plan, I appreciate it, you know, but I guess it kind of defeated, you know, I kind of looked at it like, well, and if I have to put up a fence or we have to come to some agreement or something, but you guys are just like, hey, everybody sees the green space. Well, that green space is a third of what mine is.
So in the past, so Maid Meadows, Love Meadows, where they had the tree farm, we made them put up a fence, right?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I think we did.
that he joked that he was keeping his trees, like.
Protected, yeah.
Protecting his trees.
Trees protecting his trees, yeah.
Something like that.
So,
we require agricultural, not necessarily.
Yeah, agricultural.
yeah, so an agricultural fence of some nature around your property, around your 5 acres.
Excuse me, would it be possible to put a fencing line, you know, around like our property?
Like on the north side, so like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that would actually,
So if you look at MI homes, as big as that place is, 300 acres, whatever, they put great buffers around all the houses. So there's ponds, there's some kind of weird park they build, I don't even know what that garden thing is. Yeah, but they've got, they did a great job buffering the church, buffering all that stuff. Here, there's just a little bit of tree line. And that could be sufficient, I'm not saying it's not, I just say the other homeowners really did a great job. Here, there's a bunch of homes, some of them are 100-some years old, you know, they're historical, and there's not a lot. And she's really concerned with her pond and people being right there, being able to walk in her pond. I don't blame her, I got a pond, kind of, but,
although it's pretty low right now.
yeah, so, well, we're having issues. And
Yeah.
everyone in our area's pond is low that I talked to.
I agree with the safety aspect too. And it brought up a good point is that, you know, kid wanders, they wander onto your property, they go into the pond.
Yeah,
That's very much a concern, and we haven't had any problems. I thought when we built the school, that, you know, we were gonna see kids crossing over and everything, and I haven't seen any, so that's been good, but in this case, it's right there, and kids are kids.
So maybe like a buck, isn't it, what is that called?
The split rail fence, well, not
It's not,
split rail.
it's a buck something.
But, yeah,
What
yeah.
is the name?
Well, for the hodgepodge comment, I was looking at the HOA docs, fencing are not allowed. Except, they're not allowed, except for pools.
Well, but what we often do though is we have a good detail specified.
Yes.
There's an activity, that was the intent, we got it consistent. That's really what it is. So we can control the HOA that you don't get a hodgepodge.
Right.
It's usually a wrought iron
It
fence.
is.
A wrought iron or a wrought
Yeah,
iron.
black, usually a black iron.
Yes.
Yeah. They do the,
Because that would be your pool restrictions too.
Excuse me?
That would be the pool
No,
restriction.
they're,
And therefore, yeah, They're sort of, yeah,
They look like
yeah,
higher.
yeah, sorry,
They're
they're
flat.
cheaper.
They're not.
Nah, that's too bad, nah. But it's what you see in a lot of the neighborhoods around the black ones.
Can I just say one more thing? I do appreciate that you guys are wanting to go high-end development, I really do. I wish more, and you're doing some big lots, I wish more builders did that. So at least you're, I appreciate that, so this is wanted to say that, because I've worked in some developments where I'm running the water line or the gas line, and it's 5.5 foot between the houses. And I'm in both yards digging a line here and digging a line there and trying to, so, I mean, I do appreciate our setbacks. There's a reason we have those. It keeps us being Berlin Township, not the city of Delaware, city of Columbus. I mean, we gotta stay special like that. I mean, pretty soon, on the rear of my house, which is the railroad tracks, that's gonna be city of Delaware. Any freaking moment, that'll be city. They're so greedy, you know, they steal land, or annex it. And, they're gonna be a HUD development right behind my house. Hopefully you guys are able to stop that by putting this development in. It's the one that really gives me hope. But
I appreciate it. We do have a long list of comments here, but it kind of gets lost. We are under the allowable density.
Yes. I thought you did a great job on that.
Well, I think I might comment to your comment earlier about MI. That does a great job, you're right. It's awful easy to do a lot of amenities when you, how many lots they got?
700.
Yeah, right. There's a lot of money that can be thrown at amenities. A lot different when you really deal with 44 lots.
Still too many.
Well, the problem is they didn't bring the sewer over, and that sewer costs a big chunk.
Lindsay feel that works for us.
Sorry, go ahead, please. Annie Inks, 4500 Old Station River Road. I'm one of the owners of the farm, and we intend to purchase lot number 4. So we spent over a year, we tried to divide this into 9 lots and sell just 9 lots. And in over a year, we had one person interested, and they couldn't afford to do it. So they spent about 6 months trying to figure out how to make it happen, and they couldn't afford doing it. Bringing the sewer increases everyone's property value a lot. So, you know, that's why for us, purchasing a part of the project, you know, we have the same interest that you do. So, you know, we want this to be a nice development. You know, we have a stake in this. So, if there's any way to make that 9-lot project fly, we tried. I've got over 2,000 hours of unpaid work trying to make that happen. So we spent a lot of time, we spent a lot of money trying to do a low density development, and nobody can afford to do it with on-site sanitary. And on-site sanitary, by the way, if we did the 9-lot development, that doesn't bring sewer, you know, it might improve your property values if it's a nice development, but it doesn't bring sewer, so you don't get that bump. You don't get that access to sewer if you would want to do that at some point.
But I thought you said that we don't get sewer. There isn't,
Not as part of this development,
but
they're bringing it.
but you're
Right
bringing
there.
it, and it was brought across the street. Our homes on Berlin Station don't have access to it because it's across the street, and we didn't include those 4 homes or 5 homes down through there from the school. Where you're bringing it in, it's not going to do it without a huge cost to those 5 homes.
We could never afford.
And I'm not asking you to do that,
No,
but I don't know how you're saying that that's bringing property value.
It's bringing it much closer to you if you ever want to do sewer. I mean, for us before, when we were pricing out building something on that lot, I mean, just the cost of on-site sanitary is a lot, but bringing sewer is like a pipe dream. That we could have never done that alone. All right, thank you. Are there any other audience comments, please?
Jeff, you were at 2862. You brought up the sewer. Where's the water coming from?
Well, I'm going to the Berlin station right there.
along your side here?
That's that new road.
We can go either side of the road. There's 12 inch lines within it, Long Hill, Berlin Station. There, across the street.
Problem is my leaching field comes right through here.
I'm not trying to come
We're
from your
not
property.
coming through, we're
You
going to
come- I
extend,
can come this way, you come this way.
if I may, sir, we're
Yeah.
going to, I can explain it for you. We're going to bring it along the north side of Berlin Station.
Yeah.
And then
Oh, then come down
side of
south.
Berlin.
Okay.
We're not cutting through any existing properties, except on the north side of Berlin Station. And Delco Water already has easements in those locations required, so you can get rid of those easements.
You gonna bore that? At the corner of Berlin Station and Gregory, so it would be where Dan lives. The old scales are there from the railroad from the old days. The gas company tried to run gas in there and they could not. That was an issue, so it's underneath his front yard, so the giant scales they used to weigh things are in there. You never know.
That's why.
And the gas meters, they use some of that, as everything. On Amy's property.
Well, I'm ready to close the audience comments. It's going once, going twice. Everybody had their say. Thank you very much. Okay, so we'll return to our applicant and ask what you would like to do the rest of this meeting.
Well, we have our list. We'd like to review our list.
Where did we land with the buffering around the Jordan's pond? What are we doing there? Like a cross-rock fence, are we doing?
Open space on the sides.
You want me to read the list? We're committing to this.
Committing to what?
The buffer here and here. Is that what you're
Trees,
saying?
or she was- we were talking about potentially.
Here too?
Like a cross-buck fence.
On the open space? Huh? Yeah,
Would
we
you
can
do
do that.
that? I mean, I understand the concern of
The pond.
the pods being so close.
I'm sorry.
So what would be amenable as far as buffering?
Well, trees are always great, but I don't think they're necessarily enough to tell people to stay away.
Stay on the pond.
Right. I think fencing makes that a good idea, I don't know. Well, maybe, I mean, but I've always had the worry about a pond, or as it is right now, kind of a swamp. And I've always been concerned about that, but now that we're gonna have little kids running around, I don't know, I mean, they'll sit there and say that it's our responsibility, but I don't wanna see them get hurt. So, I like trees, because trees are always really good, but I think a fence makes sense. If it's something that's gonna span the whole area, so everybody's protected in some way. If that's what you want, Dan, I don't know if you guys care about that.
No. Just around the pond.
But yeah, the pond, yeah, it's not, it's a draw for people who are.
It's an attractive.
It's an attractive, yeah.
So going around the side of 4, across the reserve, and up the side of 3.
Yes.
So that U shape,
With fence,
a fence.
Across that fence, right?
like a 3-rail horse fence, like a New Albany fence, but not white.
Or like the one right up here. Wait, where are we right now? Oh my gosh.
Something that just kind of fits into the
Yes.
ruralness of.
That's
Yes.
what that looks like.
That's what this
It's like a
looks like,
horse
yes. Yeah.
It's a 3-rail horse fence, it's that kind of look.
Yeah.
And if you want to be a horse, that'd be great.
I'm sure.
You think it would be great, but.
Okay. Well. You want me to go?
No, he's good. We've got the list.
I guess
I would just say, we would like to
I know it's a long
compromise tonight and hopefully move towards a vote.
We could read all of these conditions into the record, and I think we've agreed to all of them. And then ask for a vote for your support, condition upon working these details out with Levi and making sure he sends it on to trustees. If there's any issues with us and Levi, we'll get back to you guys.
we'll work it out with him. That would be our key for that. That's what we're really looking, we want to try from a time perspective.
I'll say something, and I'm speaking only for myself. I do not love the one-step process.
You do not love-
I do not love the one-step process. I feel like it puts a lot of onus on this group to make sure that we capture everything. You guys have been great. You have listened to what we've said. You have compromised on things that I know are important to you, and I love that. I am very hesitant to do a vote when there are so many conditions that I'm not a lawyer. I'm not comfortable making sure the language is correct. I struggle with that.
I like the one-step process, potentially, it could save us a step. But
That was the whole.
what it
reason
does,
was
it
done.
puts pressure on him, because if we get down the road with final engineering and we start tweaking and adjusting and things, he has to make a decision whether he can do it administratively or not. So the trade-off is, yeah, we've saved a step, but if we don't live up to our side of the bargain and we start changing the plan you guys approved, guess what? We're gonna come right back in front of you guys. And I think that's exactly what he would tell us to do. So you still have that protection in there.
That worries me. I'm just saying, that's speaking for me.
Before we go any further though, Tony, your property, to your point, we just did the fence around in the U shape. But for your property, how do you feel? I mean, we just talked about.
I mean, I'm just telling you my concerns, like, I mean, it's
I completely
all here, and then
understand your
everybody
concerns.
talked about, worrying about, and listen, I was there first.
Yep.
And everybody's concerned about building a new property, and then, well, we're gonna walk through their backyard to get to that part that you guys are building there, but I was there first.
Yep.
And it's kinda like, you know, it's not like I can't pay for it myself if I had to, but I'm not, you know.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of time.
That's a lot of
That's a lot of time.
Is there any utilities back there or anything to worry about?
There ain't nothing back there.
Do a three, we could do a 3-rail.
So, you
Yeah.
have that 20,000 dollars, that, which is not gonna be very good to rotate.
2201 Gregory Road, it's actually Hector.
So, putting that towards.
So I have another question, I guess. This doesn't change my zoning for me to build my mobile one. Or any of that, and all that stuff. No. So I'm good. Alright, cause they're starting in like a couple weeks and I just wanna make sure they're.
And that path, by the way, is about $80,000 too, by the way.
What's
The
that?
path that we're building.
Yes.
That's,
Yeah, it's
I mean, that's a pretty significant dollar. So are we in agreement, we'll build a fence?
Yes.
Okay.
And as far as the path from to the high school, where is that? But I thought there was gonna be.
There's gonna be a
second-
shorter segment here to be determined. This one we determined.
Yeah,
That
our
was
conversations
the
with
middle.
Middle Gordon with the school district. And one option is this, currently we have this path going out to the middle school. One is to extend it here, one is to go here, one is to go here. He and I discussed that and we'll work it out between the two of us. He's comfortable with that. I told him, I'm committing to it. I have no problem. In fact,
Then I
we
would-
want it,
Then
frankly.
I would like it written in that if there is a path in between houses, there's gotta be some sort of buffer for that path.
I understand. I think if you did do it over here, it would make a lot of sense, that's where the sewer's coming, so you're penetrating that tree line already. So I count there or here is an easy one, because you're already going off the path.
That's much further away though from high school.
Sure. I mean, this path.
You got the football field, yeah.
I'm gonna really leave it up to Jeff Gordon. It's his call. That's the deal we made for the sanitary sewer, so. He and I will work that out, if that's okay to do.
Right, it's just like I said.
But I'll 100% commit to doing it. If we do it, you want a buffer. Okay.
All right. Should I read this list, just to summarize?
Well, I do want to just make sure I confirm you guys do want to have a vote tonight. That's your intent?
We want a yes vote tonight.
Okay, so
We would try to compromise on everything.
You
possible.
have.
In order to try, there are time sensitivities that I'm dealing with on my end, not your problem.
combined. We came here knowing that we were gonna have to be very flexible in order to try to make this happen, so I'm asking you to please work with us on this. I think we tried very hard to satisfy all the things and get them out and talk about it.
I will say Patrick, he was straight up God with me. He came all the way down to my shop, had a conversation with me, brought everything with me, laid it all out. I mean, as soon as they figured out that they were gonna put buffers, right here, he says, I'm gonna do the fence. I mean,
So yes,
I mean, I've dealt with, bull crap builders and people like that before, and I mean, I don't think that's his intention here. I think he's, I think he's a stand-up guy for that, because he's, everything he said to me, he's followed through with, so appreciate that.
Okay,
Get going.
item 1, add an approximate 20 by 20 gazebo and 3 picnic tables in the open space area at a minimum of $20,000. 20% of the
Oh, it doesn't
houses
need to
will have
cost a
sidewalk.
minimum of $20,000.
it's a maximum.
Oh, no,
Okay,
if you have
sorry.
$20,000 put in there, you don't need to put a dollar amount on it.
Okay, well, we will, a 20 by 20 gazebo, I mean, that's gonna be there. Because it'll be beautiful. 20% of the houses will have side load garages. Number
I would
3,
say a minimum.
yeah,
We can
minimum,
do more, not
minimum,
less.
minimum, there'll be more.
Yeah.
Number 3, ensure that the buffer around the central lot is a variety of evergreens, not just one species such as spruce. Number 4, no vinyl fronts, and we will commit to a list of natural materials. Number 5, remove the side yard setback divergence. So it's 25 to 20. Number 6, plan for CBU parking. We'll discuss that at the trustee level. We will have, we'll have an answer to that at the trustee level. Buffer on the sides of lots 3 and 4 and across the open space, including a 3-rail fence. So does that include landscape, or are we doing just the fence?
No, I mean, do we want to add trees?
Yeah, there should be some trees in that area. Some evergreens in that area.
The plants and?
Yep.
Okay.
Because the fence is for safety,
Okay. That'll look nice.
yeah,
That's good.
and the evergreens are for safety.
Number 8, allow up to 15 foot of encroachment in the rear for lots 28 through 33.
And when you say encroachment, I just want to clarify.
For decks, patios, non-primary structure. Add language to protect buffer trees to be enforced by the HOA. So it's not just these, but I think it's all the buffer trees on the lots. Something needs to be memorialized in the HOA documents that those are to be protected. That is a lawyer task. Number 10, no front encroachment into the 25-foot setback. Did I already say that?
Say no divergence on 25.
Yeah. Correct. So no divergence means there's also no encroachment.
Right.
Number 11, we will revise the divergence for the 25% lot coverage to say 50% lot coverage. That includes the structure and impervious areas, except for lots 4, 12, and 13. Number 12, flip the driveways on lots 28, 44, and 1, which are at the entry to the neighborhood, so that the driveway is further away from Gregory Road. Also, flip the driveway on 29, so it's further away from the intersection. And that's just a general comment for all driveways to pay attention to the location to the roadways. Number 13, post no parking signs on the cul-de-sac. Number 14, add a fence detail to the HOA docs so that we have uniformity for all fences. And number 15, if the path were to be installed between houses, that there's adequate buffer.
There 16 fence around the 5 acres.
Number 16, install a fence around the central lot 5 acres.
So you could add that to number 4.
Sure.
Yeah, just add number 4, not duplicated.
I didn't hear you say, there was a comment about the signage had to have downlighting, not sure.
The entry signage?
Yeah.
Entry signage, lighting shall have downlighting and comply with township requirements.
That's my list. It's your list.
That matches my list.
What's that?
That matches my list.
I have one question. We talked about exterior surfaces, and I heard no vinyl on the front. Are we permitting vinyl on the back and sides? We've had conversations about that, and I don't remember. What
I think we said that it had to
It has to match.
match.
Okay. Did we, we talked about the thickness of vinyl. I know these are high-end houses, so this is probably, you guys have got it taken care of, but we've had conversations about the different kinds of vinyl. Am I imagining that?
No, but the code calls out the type of vinyl that needs to be used.
Okay,
We'll comply with
that's
that.
sufficient. I just want to make sure. Okay, that's a big list.
It is what it is. We can knock this out and make sure the trustees get a clean copy.
We need to write that. Do we have, Kevin usually gives us a big plat and we write the conditions on there. Do we have that?
I can get a copy of the submitted drawing, so we could sign it with conditions on
And since
We
he,
have to write all this down.
well, and since he read it all out, it's probably okay to approve it
Is
with,
it?
as written. Just, it's usually, we don't have it so nicely read out, right?
Thank you.
Because Tara's usually the one writing it.
Yes. Our
It
handwriting
should be,
is-
as long as I just type
Okay,
what
so
was
if
said.
it's part of the record, we can skip that step.
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody comfortable with that?
That's fine, because it's already part of the record.
I mean, I was trying to follow along, but there was a lot.
I'm sorry, sure.
The side divergence, was that removed?
Correct.
Okay, just double check.
Number 10.
So the only setback divergence is still in there is for lot, the only, so, yeah, it's 28 through 33, and it's an encroachment of 15 feet, up to 15 feet in the rear. No other setback divergence.
So we wanted it down to 2 divergences.
the lot coverage.
1.5.
Is that already part of one of these?
It is.
That one,
Yes.
the way you read it?
All right, anybody want to make a motion?
And just to clarify, the entry signage will be downlighting, is that sufficient, that the entry signage will have downlighting only? That's
In compliance with,
Yeah.
in compliance with the code.
Motion? Anybody feel like making a motion?
I will make a motion, and this is hard because we got a lot of things written down there. But I'm saying this is hard to like stomach with so many things. But you have been very good with compromise, and I will say a lot of the things are negating now what you would ask for, so that does make me feel more comfortable, is that a lot of them are negating what you asked for and saying, nope, we're not gonna be asking for this anymore, so. With that, I make a motion to approve BZC 24-008. I think that's all I need to read, right?
With the conditions.
Oh, with the conditions previously read by Mr.
Libby. Joe Libby.
Joe Libby,
Yeah, with the addition.
with the addition of the conditions previously read by Mr. Joe Libby.
15 conditions?
And then with the addition of the, downlighting, is it 15? I lost track. 17 condition, okay, perfect.
With the 17 conditions, that's mine.
Okay, you done with your motion?
I'm done.
Okay,
I'll
I'll
second
second.
every second.
Okay, Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Capel,
Yes.
Ms. Sos,
Yes.
Mr. D. Christopher, Ms. Shield.
Thank you very much.
That's a record for conditions, I just want you to.
It is, that's hard to stomach.
Thank you for working with us.
Well, thank you for all the work you did. That's all right.
What's what?
No.
You type it up, send it to me, I'll look it over, compare it to mine.
You'll get a copy of the site plan to, for you guys to sign the photos. I wouldn't go comfortable.
Do we have another thing after this?
Yes, not very long.
Oh, no, not tonight. Okay, I have to leave it by 9:40, 9:35. It is, 9:16. Yeah. Because usually you guys get together and you have, and you finesse it, but if you're okay with that.
Joe, can you make a copy of the sheet you had?
Oh, no.
Yeah, and that's.
Yeah, nobody's gonna do it. I typed it up.
I signed that, it was read.
Jerry, what are you doing? He was sneaking around the back room watching our news. He's part-time. Jenny, I'm sorry I keep forgetting you in the minutes. You changed to Angela and then you didn't exist for 3 meetings. But sometimes I go for the last set of minutes and then sometimes someone else, with Cedar, they weren't. So I jumped down to this. I try to do it in seniority order usually. And so I jumped down to an alternate for somebody who was absent and then jumped back up and then I end up missing you. Okay, all right, good.
Yeah.
In the back room, not here.
Oh, you were out there. I was like, you were not sitting there.
I was sitting there the whole time.
Well, you got, We've got one more thing to add to our list. I'm pretty new to this.
I just wanted to tell you guys, I appreciate how much brain power. Because I sure I always respect that. Like dumb stuff from like 30 years ago, I remember something, like I remember the name of the show I was talking about. I remember something like the other day, I remember, I don't know, it was 30 years old, some remnant of something, you know, I don't know. I think it's something if I see
We ran 35 years. I want to do my company.
She's we specialize in mountain.
Oh, yeah? Okay. Keep it that way.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to run 4 trucks out and have to, 6 guys and, Adam.
Session, guys. We have a little bit more business to attend to. So, do we have any updates on zoning resolution amendments?
Yes, we have Jerry and I, mostly Jerry with me just giving him some input on some stuff I found and he found in the resolution that needs some attention. Jerry, did he pass out the?
Everybody.
So that's just for you guys to kind of look at and digest and maybe look into the code and see what you think about the items we brought up.
And the only thing I want to say, what we're trying to do is just throw anything out there that you want to, and then I'm going to sign the action, and the team is Levi, myself, and you guys. Because this has really always been the zoning commission has been doing the updates.
Absolutely.
So I'd like to say we could close a bunch of them. I already did, like when Levi recognized there were 2 8s, so I already made that change. But the other ones, if it's cosmetic or whatever, just add it. I want to have the spreadsheet, and I'll keep track of this. And then if you have any comments on any of that, please let me know. And I'll update it for the next meeting.
We're gonna add the lot coverage versus.
Yeah,
I've already got an number on here.
Yeah, I mean, they made a fair point, that was.
Yeah, it definitely seems that it's supposed to be for something that's not so. Yeah.
So I don't know what other townships do or what kind of language, but yeah, I guess thank you for putting that on there.
Mhm.
All right, so Tony Stockford is working on the defining commercial residential, because I wouldn't even know how to start on that.
Yes, he's working on that.
Yeah, I have no idea. Okay, so we should review all this stuff and.
Hopefully the next meeting is, I think, the organizational meeting. And we can just, if anybody's got any comments there, The two big ones that I see from the trustees is the landscape and the OCPUD. That those are kind of, I don't want to say total rewrites, but there's a lot more to those. Most of these are like a one sentence change. We can close them, so that was it.
I think the only thing with OCPUD is it is written very similar to the BIO and the BCO as where the ARB should be involved at the very beginning. And I don't think in the past that was the case, so I just wanted to.
It didn't exist.
It didn't exist, so now the ARB exists and it's just gotta be part of the process.
Okay.
Okay.
Hopefully that's straightforward. Well, we'll talk about it at our next meeting and look forward to suggestions and stuff.
Thanks.
Yep, thank you.
All right, I wanted to note, I forgot to mention this at the hearing, but that, I had the wrong legal notices here, so it was actually published in November 9th of 2024. So this one that was on my thing, this is for the next meeting, so that's incorrect. It doesn't really matter, I'll just put it in the record. But this one said November 23rd, and it was for the December 10th meeting.
But it was,
Yeah, it was, yeah, on November 9th, I'll add that to the meeting.
Okay, any zoning inspector business?
Currently working with Megan. So we have some abandoned properties in the township. We haven't done any remediation efforts on anything up to this point. So we're gonna kind of take one of the most glaring properties and use it as a test case to see how that would go. So what's that? It's on Berlin Station, just west of the tracks on the north side of the road. It's a white house. It's actually kind of a neat little property, but it's been abandoned for a while. I think it's in probate or something. And it's windows busted out, doors kicked in, that kind of thing. Jerry had the fire department help him put a lid back on the cistern kind of
Oh
thing.
my gosh.
So
For safety.
Yeah.
This will just kind of help us see how the process goes. That's like the biggest thing. Then there's some stuff with another developer going on with the BIO. And that's why Tony's working on the findings and stuff in the code.
The only thing I'd like to add is Levi found then last week that one of the houses that was abandoned, that's actually an old state, is going to be renovated.
Yeah.
Well, that's the one just north of Cheshire on the left.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I tried to get a hold of her.
Yeah, I mean, the house, now that the leaves are gone, you can see it. It doesn't look that bad, except for about 10 trees through the roof.
Wow.
There's some-
But there were kids.
Except for that house, too.
Well,
Yeah,
the tornado got
Yeah.
it, but it's still standing and it didn't look as bad as the one Levi just mentioned, so.
And Megan didn't want us to bite off too many at once, since this isn't a process
Yeah,
to work through. Don't start with 3, start with 1.
Low hanging fruit first?
Yes.
Okay.
Are we working into the resolution about fines for, just different violations that,
I
I don't know
am
if that can go with the resolution, but
not familiar with that. I'll have to talk to Tony and see what we can do.
so just like, I just think about like these developers are saying like there's no, enforcement or recourse if a developer comes in and builds.
If there's a violation, I can't serve a fine to somebody. I don't have that authority. It has to go through the county prosecutor. And usually it's issued via, on their tax record or lien on their taxes.
Or maybe it's even in the process of how that happens
Yeah.
from between the talk between the township and the county.
I think that just goes via, through the ORC, whatever the ORC dictates.
All right, do we have any other business? Anybody wants to talk?
She said, look at this.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, go through the dates quickly on the
I
road.
said, I think Kathy would put this up for to look
Yeah,
before the next meeting.
Before the next meeting, so that way we can put this on.
The hearing on the 10th is for Rockford Homes Parkside. It is a final for phase one. And they just came through and got their major monitor stuff, so it's pretty recent. It's not like you're looking at something nobody's looked at for,
Oh, yeah, no, that wasn't that long ago.
I'm not leaving.
I'll make a motion.
yes.
Okay.
Second.
Robert's rules.
I have to be at Great Harvest Bread at 6:45 in the morning. Because they don't take orders anymore.
Oh, that would be a challenge.
They don't take orders anymore. So now it's for